Labor Day savings. Visit Dell.com/business deals or call us at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
807. Worried about basement flooding? Time to call Permaseal, 800-421-SEAL. And time to check the roads in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center with Jim Telemonti.
On the inbound Kennedy Expressway, scattered delays begin around Harlem. We're looking at a trip time of 28 minutes, O'Hare to downtown, 16 from Montrose, 12 in the express lanes. Outbound 22 minutes downtown to the airport. Eastbound Eden spur traffic. It's a little bit sticky, Waukegan Road to the Edens, but then it's 15 minutes Lake Hook to Montrose. Inbound Eisenhower traffic is slowed North Avenue to the Tri-State and Manheim to Des Plaines Avenue. 37 minutes, 390 to downtown. Outbound 29. Stevenson, 33 minutes, 355 to the Drive. To Ryan, 20 minutes from 95th. Northbound Lakeshore Drive traffic is slow from 18th Drive to Roosevelt. The northbound Tri-State from the Reagan Tollway to the Eisenhower. That's traffic. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. In our AM 560 Weather Center, our meteorologist Steve Williams.
A lakeshore flood advisory is in effect today. It'll be breezy this morning, clouds and cool and a passing shower. High today 65, cloudy tonight, low 60. Sun and clouds tomorrow, the high near 67. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
We're standing at 61 right now. Next news at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, and your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning. Amy Jacobson here. Scott Shality.
Let's hear it.
Let's do it. Come on, where's our cow sign? The cow guy.
Justin's planning dinner this evening. There will be no steak.
Yeah. He's here, filling in for Dan Prop. We're having a good time today, and you'll be back tomorrow. And you're doing Dan's network show, too. So You're looking at about 12 hours of radio. How you feeling?
I'm sure everybody
you ready
else.
To go?
Like I said, I mean,
it's
how many
everybody's
people?
Dream.
I just want to know how many people they had to call to finally have a guy say yes. That was me.
You signed up
right.
for 7 hours of radio. That's
right.
probably more than you slept last night.
I think
right?
it was Quinn or I don't know who signed me up for the whole day. But anyway.
Well, yesterday I was at Lori Lightfoot, our our mayor's press conference, and she needs some money because we're at $1.2 billion in the hole. And I found out yesterday at Governor Pritzkers' press conference, as a state, we're $5 billion in the hole because of COVID and other things.
No one wants to see a reduction in the kind of services that are core to what we do as a city government. But we are looking at a variety of options. And of course, we have no way of knowing at this point whether or not Congress is going to see a breakthrough.
Whoa, okay. Earth to Lori. You shut your businesses down. There's no tax revenue. You got no money.
Wait, how did that happen?
I mean,
oh my gosh, really?
she's supposed to be a lawyer, right? I mean, why can't she connect the dots? It boggles the mind. This is why the state's in the trouble that it's at anyway. You have people that can't put two and two together where, hey, if I shut everything down,
what's going to happen?
Where am I going to get my... Oh, because they probably still believe that governments actually make money. Right? They just collect and then redistribute. Oh, my word.
With more on this, let's welcome back Stephen Moore. He is noted economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, and author of Trumponomics, Inside the American First Plan to Revive Our Economy. Good morning, Mr. Moore.
Hi, Amy. Hi, Scott. Good to be with you. By the way, I was listening to what you were just saying about both Pritzker and Lightfoot, and it's very much related to what I'm working on right now, which is to try to stop this blue state bailout that Pelosi is insisting on. And one of the reasons that, I feel so strongly about this, and people in red states that don't have incompetent leadership feel so strongly that it would be unfair to tax people in red states to give money to blue states, is what you essentially are doing is enabling the very kind of idiotic policies that were put in place by Pritzker and Lightfoot, as you just said. I mean, look, you shut down businesses. Who would have thought you'd lose all these jobs, all this tax revenue? And by the way, still a big problem in Illinois with I was there a couple of weeks ago and just saw the downtown area that's basically all just boarded up.
Oh, it's a disaster.
They number one, they didn't open up their businesses. Number two, they didn't stop the looting and rioting, which is causing the mass exodus out of. Big report today about the number of people leaving the city of Chicago and fleeing to the suburbs. So, look, if you don't have businesses there and if you don't have public safety, people will leave. Gee, what a shocker.
Well, I was in a red state recently and spoke with a businessman, a very successful businessman. He said if President Trump and Congress bails out these blue states, for the first time in my life, I would go to a march on Washington to try and stop that because they don't want their federal tax dollars to be spent to bail out, governors who are just irresponsible with the tax dollars.
Well put, and that's a very prevalent attitude outside of New York and Illinois and California and New Jersey. These states, this is the whole narrative by the Biden campaign is Trump, mismanaged the virus, and that's why we have all these economic problems. And look, I would give Trump maybe a B-, C+ for his handling of the coronavirus, but the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, just look at the areas that have been ravaged economically and from a health point of view by coronavirus. Well, let's see. Which states have had the worst record? Okay, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, California. Gee, what do all these states have in common? Oh, they're run by Democratic governors and Democratic mayors. I mean, look, at some point, people have to be held accountable for what's happening in their own states and cities. Meanwhile, by the way, people in Chicago may not realize this because you're in Chicago, but you go to Nebraska or South Dakota or Utah or Idaho, and those states have very, very few deaths from coronavirus, and they've balanced their budgets.
Yep.
So
I was just telling Scott that the coronavirus did not affect certain states at all because they kept certain things open and they trusted their residents to do the right thing.
Amen.
And Steve, you just said the word I was going to say. I mean, there's no accountability when you're always going to be bailed out, from the next, the next go round of bailouts. And here's what I've said, and I think you probably even heard me say it. We don't need another bailout. We just need to open up the economy. Right? We need to get over the fear and flip the switch on because you fall down a hole and you have to dig your way out, right? You don't fall up a hole. So it takes time to come out of a problem. So whenever the first day is that we switch on the economy 100%, it will still take time. So the sooner that we get to that day, the less money we're going to spend throwing money at some of these bad places that are being governed poorly to try to get ourselves through this pandemic. So I've been ranting earlier today where these governors that are driving their economies at 100 miles an hour into a brick wall, we have Stockholm syndrome. Some of these businesses are so happy to be allowed to be open to 25 to 50% of their revenues, but have to pay 100% of your overheads. I'll never understand that. So they're kissing their captors rather than punching their captors in the mouth and getting on with their lives of business. So I'm frustrated where there's no lack. Where's the outrage, right? Where's everybody banding together and coming up with, the Restaurant Association in New York coming up with 10 guidelines, and we're all open up Monday morning full bore. Here we go.
So look, there's a lot there, and let me mention a few things. So first of all, you guys know Ezekiel Emanuel. He's the brother of.
He's been on the show. He's been on the show 3 or 4 times. Yeah.
Well, did you know that he signed this statement by a number of academics, left-wing academics, basically calling for another shutdown of the economy?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not making this up, folks. I mean, these lunatics it worked so well the first time. They want another lockdown in the economy. By the way, in virtually every single state in the United States, especially the southern states, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, Arizona, all those states have massive reductions in their caseloads. Did you notice how, Scott, when the headlines 6 weeks ago, massive spike in the South, everyone's going to die,
right.
The pandemic's out of control. Now the numbers are just plummeting, and nobody's saying anything. That's number one. By the way, just as an aside in our newsletter, I just finished editing it. This is a great little story, so I'll give it to you guys first.
All right.
There are 26,000 kids, college kids on college campuses that have tested positive to COVID. This is the big story now. But do you know how many out of those 26,000 have been admitted to the hospital?
Yeah.
Please tell me how many.
I do happen to know the answer.
Less than five.
Yep.
I mean,
Less than 5 of 26,000?
Yep.
People who are young don't get sick from coronavirus. Open up the damn schools. What is going on here? That, a 12, 14, 18-year-old does not get sick from coronavirus. They may contract it, but they don't get sick from it. And so there's a lot of misinformation out there. But the good news is the economy is doing a lot better. The number of cases is falling as it's swept through now the South, and it's basically done there. And yet you just don't get that kind of information at all. And in New Jersey, by the way, I know that's a long way from Chicago, the governor is clamping down again.
Why?
I don't have any idea. I mean,
why? It's fear and power.
This is why it ties back to the whole issue of this blue state bailout. These governors believe they can do this because Uncle Sam is going to come in and write them a big fat check. And that's why we're saying, hell no, we're not going to do that. If you want to destroy your own state economy, we're a federalist system. You have a right to do that. And the voters, who voted you in are going to suffer for it. But the idea that we're going to have then federal taxpayers bail them out, I am so opposed to that. And Trump so far has been very good. He said to Pelosi, look, I want to send money to people. I want to do a payroll tax cut. I want to help the economy get going, but we're not going to bail out blue states. And Pelosi said, okay, we're not going to have any aid then. No aid if it doesn't include $1 trillion for blue states.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about Mitch McConnell's push to pass the $500 billion coronavirus package. And basically, It would admit the $1,200 payments that people would get, but it'd give $250 billion to small businesses. So is this a good idea?
It's a hell of a lot better than what Pelosi's got. I mean, and it's 1/8 the cost and 1/6 the cost. So,
but do we even need this?
I personally don't think we need any more, quote, stimulus. Government spending doesn't stimulate anything but government. But if we are going to give aid to people and help, push the economy forward, then we should give the money to families and we should give them to businesses, not the politicians.
Right, and you're exactly right. And again, I'm all about the economy. I think you are too. Actually, I know you are. And in order to get to where we need to be going,
I live and sleep this stuff, guys.
Yeah, I know you do.
Come on, he breathes it.
Yeah, so I think you again would agree with me that we, like you just said, we don't need any more money. We just need to get going here. And when the government locks down everybody, that's called tyranny. Locking down people that are at risk is called quarantine. And we've mixed that up. And we've also mixed up two other words called fear and danger. Right, so we're afraid of something that's not really that dangerous, and then we do dangerous things every day that we should be more afraid of, and that's a problem. So I think that the media has got everybody. I don't know what you think about this, Stephen. It's a good question for you, but I think that the media in February and March was just so rampant, scaring everybody. I mean, it's investors, consumers. It doesn't matter that they can't really get that horse back in the barn now. There's a much bigger problem about trying to dampen down everybody's fear than there really is in what's going on out there in the recovery in the economy.
But you're right. Now, part of that is just the natural inclination of the newsroom. And I've worked in the newsroom for 10 years. I worked at the Wall Street Journal. And, this isn't even a partisan thing. There's an old saying, Amy, I'm sure you've heard this a million times. But,
if it bleeds, it leads.
Right?
Well,
so, the media loves to report on airplane crashes and, pandemics and things like that. That's what sells newspapers. And we're, as consumers, we're the ones who buy the newspaper. Oh, my gosh, an airplane crashed. I got to read all about that. So the media loves bad news. And, in fact, there's another old saying in the media, if it's good news is a contradiction in terms, right? If it's good, it's not news. And so that's part of the problem. But there was a study that was done by Pew Research, which asked people their attitudes about how dangerous they think coronavirus is. And it was amazing because people, don't understand this disease. Here we are 8 months into this. People still don't really understand it. It is very dangerous for old people. Sorry about the dog. It's very dangerous for old people. For young people, there's very little danger at all. And yet most people think it's the opposite.
Yeah, you're right. There was did you see the Franklin Templeton study? You probably did. But it was basically they wrote a paper saying how to make money in the pandemic, which basically, when you read through the lines, was how to take advantage of people's fears while investing. And when they surveyed Americans, it really was amazing. They surveyed Americans when asked from the COVID deaths under the age of 44, all the COVID deaths under the age of 44, when asked, Americans thought it was around 50-50. 50 below, 44, 50.
Oh
well, the real number is 2.7%. Right? And then asked about 65 and older, Americans thought 40%. Well, the real number is 80%.
Right.
So you're exactly right. We have the general public is still so under the bed cowering right now that I think that's going to be a hindrance.
And it's also a danger for health, because if people don't realize what is a risk and what isn't a risk, so old people should be protected. If you're over the age of 75 and you get any health problems, you need to quarantine yourself, right? If you have diabetes, if you have heart problems, you have emphysema, you have to quarantine yourself. And the other big factor, and how many times have we talked about this on the show, that nobody in the media, it's like, shh, don't tell anybody. But what is the other major factor associated with health problems, the coronavirus?
Weight.
Obesity.
Yes.
Obesity. And nobody wants to talk about it because it's politically incorrect, because, maybe if people lost a little bit of weight, if they're overweight, they wouldn't, nobody's personally responsible for their behavior. That's the left's attitude.
I'm just happy that the middle seat's going to stay open. That's all I'm going to say on the subject.
And Stephen Moore, before we let you go, I do want to tell you, because I used to work at NBC, and I do know of an intrepid reporter who's trying to do a positive COVID piece, like saying the truth, that 44% of the people are asymptomatic, and they get squashed every time they ask to do that story. Because nobody wants to hear about it. Like, well, that's reality. But you don't want to say it because, again, if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, Stephen Moore, always a pleasure having you on.
Thanks,
Stephen Moore, noted economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, and author of Trumponomics, Inside the American First Plan to Revive Our Economy. Thank you so much, Stephen. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
If you're drowning in IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing throughout the country, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline at 800-500-5588. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years of unfiled tax returns, there's no need to fear anymore. But you have to call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-500-5588 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-500-5588 for your free consultation and to see if you qualify. That's 800-500-5588.
Hey, you might want to pay attention to this one. Are your doors or windows sticking? Cracks in your drywall? What about your exterior brickwork? Well, Lou Manford. So, if you have who writes this stuff? What